Scott, can you hear me? Oops. It's still saying my speakers are probably. Oh, there. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. All right.
Always good when we hit it on the first try.
Yeah. So I'm on my new setup this week.
Oh.
My new multi-monitor desktop setup. So the first time I've actually plugged in the mic since I set it up.
Is this coming off the desktop?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Everything is set up on my desktop. Right now. Although I just had to order a new cable because my third monitor, I didn't have a cable long enough. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that happens.
So right now, what it looks like is, I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
There.
Let me switch to full screen. Up.
There.
Yep. Got it.
Okay. But I'm really hoping to get another copy of this monitor.
Mm-hmm.
Of this new 4K monitor that's my main monitor soon. I just didn't want to spend all the money at once, so I was waiting to see if it would go on a bigger sale. The price actually went up, but I really would like to get the same one, put it on the bottom row, and then take the two
smaller
take
ones
them and put them on the top row, and then I'll have my four. But I'm really enjoying the new monitor because I wasn't using it before, so it's good. So let me see what would be a good topic for this week. Well, this has been a busy week in terms of stuff that's not news. Preparing for all the Prime Day stuff, which we already talked about Prime Day the other day, so we won't talk about that one any further. But
we should remind people in your segment to follow Tom's Hardware.
Yes.
For Prime Day stuff.
Yes. Come join us for Prime Day. I mean, we talked last week about the new CPUs that were coming out, so now there actually was some detail about it this week. But I'm not really sure if it's that exciting to have two different ones about the same thing.
Okay.
Let's see.
Just on a side note, I laughed pretty hard when I saw in my feed that you guys wrote about one of the video card companies scalping their own product, and I'm like,
oh, MSI.
I'm like, hey, look at that. We joked about that like 2 weeks ago, and oh god, there's proof of it now.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if it is definitely them, I can't say that for sure. But
sure, but
if it is definitely them,
it was so funny to see that headline come from Tom's Hardware on my feed. I'm like, yeah, all right, well, it's 2020. This wild year.
I could talk about the Jetson Nano that we didn't talk about last week. That's something.
Okay.
It's that's about the newest thing that I have right now that I can talk about. So unfortunately, it's I've had to do a lot of writing about Prime Day deals that is not super conducive to exciting stuff on our show.
Yeah.
Thinking about the other stuff that we've covered this week, it's primarily the new CPUs, more information on the GPUs, some peripheral reviews. So nothing nothing that stands out as fantastically exciting. So okay, let me take this and we can talk a little bit about the resources that NVIDIA has for this, and how you can use it to how you can use it to learn about machine learning and things like that. Not the most
as opposed to paying $100 million for the developer version.
Yes. So it's reasonably priced.
I have to mute you for just a second.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a whistle coming from you. Can you mute your mic for just a second?
Hold on a sec. I better do that through software.
Oh, right. You don't have the Bcaster. You have the. Okay. Well, that.
Okay.
It's definitely when you're muted. It's definitely getting rid of it. I wonder where it's coming from.
I mean, the Bcaster is.
It's like a digital, Oh, it's gone. Oh,
well,
it's back. It's like a.
I put it on. It has voice, neutral, and gain. How about if it's on neutral?
Yeah. Oh, there it goes again. I don't know what it is. It sounds like a grounding thing.
Oh. I mean, this cable is not like. I pulled whatever cable out I could find. I don't know if does it matter. I know that they give you a cable with it, but I have no idea what happened to the cable that was with it the other
day. It's okay. Let me set the Rodecaster up to record the channel tonight.
Okay.
All right. Okay. I set the Rodecaster to record multi-channel tonight. So that'll give me the ability to run some noise correction on your channel. It's not a big deal.
Wait, I found another wire. You want me to try changing the wire? I'll try changing the wire.
It's worth a shot.
Okay. One sec.
Interesting. You're not back yet. I can see you talking, but I can't hear you. Nothing. Oh. For those of you who are joining us live, this is obviously our pre-show test. We will be getting started very shortly. Hello.
How about now?
I've got no hum now.
Okay. Maybe it's something to do with a wire.
Maybe. It might be a grounding issue. We used to have a grounding issue between our mixer and our desktop. And changing the cable out solved it. So
yeah.
Whatevs. we seem to be up and running now, so we're all set.
Okay.
Did you see the stuff in the upstream?
Most of it.
Okay. The Supreme Court case, Unreal is safe, but Fortnite is not, and we'll touch briefly on the Microsoft app fairness policy, since that's obviously aimed at that conversation. Yelp's weird new social attack feature, and AT&T Media is in trouble.
Sounds good.
All right. I think everything is running here. Record studio. Record audio. Make sure I'm set to record you. I am. All right. And here we go. Oh, no, we aren't. Oh, good. This is precisely what I was hoping for tonight. The Rodecaster started doing this fun new thing where it doesn't always record. I think I've burned out my SD card. We talk about the lifespan of SSDs, but we don't talk about the lifespan of micro SD cards when you're as mean to them as we are. This is going to be an interesting problem tonight. I don't have a solution for this. Okay, I have to run to the office real quick and grab another micro SD. Oh. No, I don't. Okay. Buying 4 new micro SD cards this week. All right. This time for real. Here we go. Good evening from Plugkit Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Abram.
And we are here with episode 576 of F5 Live Refreshing Technology for Sunday, October 11th, 2020. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Oracle's eyeing a Supreme Court win, Epic is keeping iOS unreal, and DirecTV is on fire sale. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, through a podcatcher like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, TuneIn, or a myriad of other options, through our live stream platforms, livestream.com, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, or Facebook, or of course on our website, plugkitslive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There's 2 ways you can do that. The first is you can join us live Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern at f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us during the show and give your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. Or you can always subscribe at plugitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, Pilch Point, Plugkits Live Presents, and a whole lot more. And of course, find all of the ways that you can watch or listen. Abram, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, all right. Oh, man. You ever have one of those things where you spend hours trying to figure out how to program something? You program it, and then you realize that it's kind of useless. I spent several hours today on such a project. I was working on this is relevant to something the audience should know. So, Amazon Prime Day is Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, and at Tom's Hardware, we take this deal holiday very seriously, and we spend a lot of time writing about the different deals that you can get. And so I was looking at ways to, one of the things that we like to do when we're writing about deals is we like to take the product images that we get and replace the plain white background with some kind of a colorful background, like a gradient sometimes.
Okay.
And I I'm all about anything that we have to do repeatedly, we should we should automate. So I
Absolutely.
spent a long time in JavaScript trying to figure out how to make a Chrome extension to how to modify Chrome extension I have to replace all of the white in the images with make it transparent and make it a background. So first, I noticed, of course, if you have an image of a product and it has a white label on it, that's not going to be good because then that's going to get erased.
Yeah.
So I came up with this really complex system to get all of the pixels that go from left to right, then stop when it finds something, a not white pixel, and then do it again from right to left. And that works fine if the product that the image that you're trying to get is of an object that is a box. But if you have something like a stick of RAM that has teeth in it with white in between them or whatever, it doesn't get rid of that. So I don't know. I try to obviate, the magic wand tool, which is what you use for that in Photoshop or an image editor, and do it for you automatically. But I don't know. I think you probably need some kind of machine learning or something to figure out that the white space in an image is not part of the actual object, but part of the background.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or have some sort of a like the magic wand tool where you've got like edge detection tolerance and stuff like that, which prevents it from going inside.
Yeah.
That magic 32 in Photoshop.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. But also when you have a wand tool, sometimes you end up having to manually clean it up by going, if there's like a little gap in something where, I don't know, a hole in it.
The inside of an A or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So trying to programmatically detect something like that and figure out that this is white space and not white part of an object is, I don't know if that's even possible. So, hey, but I figured out how to do it to the point of if you have a square hard drive, we can make a perfectly good background for it, no problem. Anyway.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've been down that road where you're like, oh, that was a lot of time, and yeah, that doesn't do what I wanted to at all. Oh,
yeah,
so close,
yeah,
and yet so
there,
far.
There you have it. But
you could obviously get closer if you did it top bottom as well, but whew, then you're getting into all kinds of multi-processing and dealing with, well, what if it's at a little bit of an angle? Oh, now you got to come in at 45s.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Yeah, that I'm sitting here
anyway
running in my head through all the annoyances of that, and yeah, it doesn't sound like fun. But I can definitely appreciate the going through the process of building a thing, and when you're done, going, well, that's not going to help most of the time.
Yeah. Oh well.
Well, if it helps sometimes, at least it's better. At least it's better than not helping at all, right?
Yeah. I mean, the part that I did that actually does work well is auto cropping, and that was more complicated because what I had to figure out, and again, it's not. I mean, it's not the concept. It's not that complicated conceptually, but it just took a while physically. Was figuring out if you have a picture of an image that's on a white background and you want to crop it to exactly 16:9, but you want to make sure that you don't cut off the bottom or top of any object in the image, having it come up with actual boundaries, the like furthest left, right, top, and bottom boundaries of non-white pixels, and then like figure out how to make the canvas like that to maximize the amount of object or whatever. So I did figure that one out, and do that. So whatever. I'm all about if I could press anything that's repetitive, like having to do crop something, having to draw things with a magic wand tool or whatever, feels to me like something that a robot should do. So in my life, in my work, I'm all about, can I automate this so that I can get on to doing the creative work. I'd rather spend 10 hours automating something that takes me 20 seconds than do the 20-second thing. That's the principle.
Mark and I used to talk about that at Sumo Software all the time. You know, if you're doing a task more than a couple of times, that it's time to automate it. And Mark would always joke that, you know, he'd much rather spend 2 days building a thing to save 5 minutes than to than to do the 5-minute task. So
yeah, it's demeaning. It's like, I know a robot could do this. I know a computer could do this. Anyway.
Absolutely. I have built the number of like web scrapers I've built over the years is painful. We won't talk about the one that I used to cheat in a Best of the Bay online survey thing for restaurant stuff for Creative Loafing, but in the end it didn't work because Creative Loafing was cheating too. But that's a whole different topic. Anyway, yeah, that's always frustrating. But you know, the things that you did can help you. Like, don't put it away, right? Let it bounce around in your head for a couple of days, and you might go, got it.
Yep.
And be able to solve it tomorrow just by not thinking about it. So, and that's good advice for everybody. Just because you don't have a solution today doesn't mean you won't have a solution tomorrow, because your brain continues to work on problems even when you don't think they are. Even when you don't think that it is. So, anyway, that's not a topic of our show, but we do have a lot of topics to get through tonight. So let's get to it. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, a tablet, a new Xbox, games, and a whole lot more like phones, VR, and AR headsets, you can get them all at the Microsoft Store. And remember that current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% on almost everything. And they've actually got links on all the products to make that calculation easy for you, and you can find it all by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So, this is a story that we have been following now for just over a decade. I literally wrote the initial story on this in August of 2010, and it has finally hit its apex a decade later. I want to start by getting into kind of the high level, and then we'll talk in detail on what's going on. So, in 2010, Oracle did what all the cool kids were doing at the time, and that was filing suit against Google. Everybody had their own weird reasons for it, but in Oracle's case, they alleged that Google had illegally duplicated the API structure of Java in implementing for Android. Now, what does that mean? First, there's the API, which is the Application Programming Interface. Most of the time when Avram and I talk about APIs, we're talking about web APIs or web services, the things that a website uses or a mobile application uses to get data and things like that. In this case, the API is just is the structure in the low-level code that makes Java happen. It's the stuff that programmers use to make all of the internal Java functions possible. On top of the API, or the top layer of the API, is the API surface. And that is what this lawsuit is all about. It's all about the surface. The surface is the part that, as a programmer, you see. It's got namespaces, it's got classes and functions and arguments, but you don't know what's going on below it. That's the actual API. The API surface is what Google copied to implement the Java integration on Android. Now, very long ago, Java is not a publicly accessible system. It is owned, operated, and licensed by Sun, which is a subsidiary of Oracle, in the same way that C# is owned, operated, and licensed by Microsoft. And so Oracle said that by duplicating the API structure, the API surface, Google had violated their copyright. Google has always argued that API surfaces are not copyrightable, and has argued, these two companies have argued in so many courts over the last 10 years that we could spend all night just listing the courts of appeal over and over and over the last decade. But this week, the case finally made it to the Supreme Court. The justices heard arguments from both sides, and Google did a really poor job of making their case. In fact, several legal experts have had not nice things to say about it, and in fact, one person said that it was, they said something worse than it was a disaster. I don't remember the exact wording, and I'm looking for it now. But the lawyers for Google refused to get into the nuances of what the difference between the API surface was and the API itself, and they argued that that the surface just provided a method of operation because programmers operate the Java language through invocations of those interfaces. But Oracle's lawyers and two of the justices said, well, how is that different than any other function in your own code? Because your argument, if we went with it, would invalidate all software copyrights. And they didn't have an answer for it. So by the end of arguments, it did not sound like this was going to go in Google's favor, which, based on their arguments, is probably a good thing, because the idea of invalidating copyright for all software would be a security and market nightmare.
Yeah, I look, I can't imagine any court invalidating all software copyrights. That would be ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's destroying a huge market segment, and I'm sure it would go up to the Supreme Court, which is definitely very pro-business.
Well, it's where we are right now. We're literally in the Supreme Court. It would be the Supreme Court that would be making this decision.
Right. Yeah. So you're right. So yeah, there's no way that they're gonna. There's no way that no matter what the composition of the court is, there's no way that they're going to strike down the idea of software copyrights.
Right.
There's just too much. There's just too much money in it. It would be destabilizing to businesses, and if there's one thing the Supreme Court doesn't want to destabilize, it's businesses. So,
and definitely the industry that has been responsible for most of the economic growth over the last decade or so.
Yeah, I mean, if everything were free and open source, where would the money come from?
Mm-hmm. And can you imagine if it was completely legal for me to essentially download the Tom's Hardware site? I mean, I'd have to get through your security, but you know what I mean. And then just duplicate it elsewhere.
Well, that wouldn't be software copyright so much as it
I
would
don't mean
be.
I don't mean the content. I mean the actual the stuff that you've written, the all the plugins for your CMS, all that stuff. You know, then
I
I can create
mean,
a site. I don't know. There's
I
we all
think
spend
that's
we all spend a lot of money to people to build things to make to give us an advantage. You know, you were literally talking about, you know, your plugin doing background stuff, you know, even little stuff like that. It's just to give you an advantage in your day to make you a little more productive, but you're not free.
yeah, absolutely. I think I think the thing is clearly intellectual property has value. We all know this. So I don't foresee the court overturning that.
No, I don't either. And when it comes to API surfaces, I have an interesting like split feeling on it. I believe that in the case of Oracle, because the uh, Java structure is not publicly accessible. It's not a public thing. It's a licensed thing through Sun. Oracle has the right to protect that structure, um, and make it them. And then on the other hand, say Amazon S3, their web API for storage, every web storage system on the planet, save for maybe Azure, has duplicated the web API structure of Amazon S3 so that you can easily, within software, switch from Amazon to Wasabi or something, and you just change out a library in your software, and you're off and running. No code in your system has to change. Um, Amazon doesn't license access to the web API. In fact, you can have a free account with Amazon to have that, you know, to use it. And Amazon has never claimed that that API surface is protected. So, you know, if if you don't want to protect your stuff, you're not required to. But if you want to, well then, yeah. It's the whole concept of open source, right? Some companies say anybody can use our code. We don't care. You do you. And other companies say nope, this is proprietary stuff. Sometimes because it's against federal law to export certain code if there's encryption and stuff involved. Even Microsoft, who's done a ton of open sourcing, hasn't open sourced certain stuff because it's against federal law. But you know, it's up to the intellectual property owner as far as I'm concerned, and Oracle's saying this is protected. I'm fine with that. And I'm okay with Amazon not caring. You know, I think it's everybody's choice. The quote, by the way, was he did an abysmal job. That was from a legal scholar at Cornell. that's that, that's a hell of a quote right there. You, that doesn't even just say that you sucked. That's an abysmal job. Woo. And if you read some of the conversation between like him and even Brett Kavanaugh, the he did not have answers for nothing. So I don't think there's any way that Google wins this thing. But here's the thing: we have a weird Supreme Court scenario right now. Instead of 9 justices, we currently have 8. We've been waiting a decade for this thing to make it to the court, and we have the most unfortunate scenario possible. So normally, you'd have 2 possible outcomes. In this case, we have 3. Oracle could win outright, 5-3, no problem, move on, national precedent set. Google could win, 5-3, outright, national precedent set, move on. Or it could be a tie, which is what I do not want. I do not want to see a tie, because here's what happens. No national precedent is set, which means that every region can continue to litigate this except for California, which would be a disaster until it could maybe make its way back to the Supreme Court, which will never happen. But a tie would mean that Oracle wins. But no precedent is set because it's a tie. So I'm just hoping for not a tie, Avram. I want I want this issue to be written in stone and just move on with our day, whatever it is.
Would this mean that Google would then have to pay Oracle? Would the cost be passed along to people buying Android phones, for example?
So obviously, by doing this, Google was trying to avoid paying royalties to Sun that owns Java. The fact that they have essentially skirted licensing fees for over a decade does not weigh light on Oracle's shoulders, or they would not have taken this to the Supreme Court. There will be a fee involved, and there will be a fee going forward. I've done some research. I have looked into some numbers, and the decade of past due unpaid licensing fees could be in the billions to tens of billions.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of money on the line, and don't think that Google just has that sitting in the glove compartment either. They're gonna make you pay for it. So better buy my new Android phone now.
Yeah, before Google starts having to actually license it.
Is it Google that's going to have to pay all of it, or is it going to be anybody who makes a device with Android?
No, it's 100% going to be on Google because Google created the development environment. Just because Android Studio and all of the things surrounding it are all intentional skirting of copyright law. Just because Samsung has Android on their devices, they don't have anything to do with the programming environment or anything like that. That's all on Google. So it's not going to be like Motorola having to pay $1.75 to Nokia for every phone that they sold for violating Nokia's patents inside of Android. So it'll definitely be all on Google, which will be fat. Plus, of course, court costs. A decade worth of court costs, including arguing in front of the Supreme Court. This is going to be a mess. Obviously, we do not have a ruling yet because they just heard it on Wednesday. But by the end of their session, obviously they have to publish their rulings before their session ends. So at some point, probably before the end of the year, we will hear what the ruling on this one is. There's far-reaching implications here, depending on how the decision is written. So we will definitely be coming back to this when the decision comes out, because this is going to affect everybody in one way or another. This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices, and you can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to pilchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right, Avram. We got to see a device. He showed it briefly, I think last week, but now we get to hear some more about it, right?
All right. So, artificial intelligence in your house. This is the NVIDIA Jetson Nano 2 GB. It is a new development board from NVIDIA that was just announced last week, and I don't think you can even purchase it yet, but when you will be able to, it'll be $59. So what you get with this board is this is somewhat of, I wouldn't say necessarily a direct competitor, but it's somewhat of a competitor to a Raspberry Pi with better artificial intelligence, better machine learning capabilities. It has a quad core processor that has 128 CUDA cores, which are good for graphics, but most importantly, good for things like image recognition, sound recognition, things like that. And what NVIDIA is doing is NVIDIA is making available a bunch of free online courses that you can use to learn about how to create your own AI programs in standard programming languages like Python. And you can use this board to do it. So my son and I spent a little time this week trying to get this up and running. We had a little bit of difficulty so far, in that some of the tutorial stuff, some of the courseware we weren't able to get running yet, but we could see that this is quite a powerful machine, and a lot of people have used the 4 GB version of this, which came out last year and costs quite a bit more, at $99, to also build things. So, for example, last week, a couple weeks ago, I had on my podcast show, um, a guy named Ahad Cove who made a self-driving trash can, and I think I might have mentioned this before. And he needed, one of these, actually the big brother of this, the Xavier NX, which is a little more expensive, but you could use this for the same purpose to see when a garbage truck was coming down the street. This is really good for doing things like building your own robot. It has 40 pins for general purpose input output. So it can, provide that you can find the software with it. For it, it can work with any Raspberry Pi hat. It has it gets power over USB Type C, which is kind of a nice improvement over the 4 GB model that took a proprietary barrel connector. This will The old one would also charge over micro USB, but would not get a full amount of voltage for full performance. So this will work with any 5 volt 3 amp charger you have lying around for your phone, or if you have a Raspberry Pi, that's the standard for that. It has single HDMI out, and it's got three USB ports, and you can see it's got this giant heatsink because it needs it, because it's doing so much processing. It runs a version of Ubuntu that NVIDIA maintains called eLinux, which is pretty straightforward, although I had to try and figure out how to set up a virtual network connection. Setting up a virtual network connection to control this remotely was more challenging than it should have been, and was kind of slow once I got it running. A virtual network connection, for those who don't know, is if you want to remote control it. So let's say you don't want to connect this to a monitor because your other monitors are in use, but you do want to see what's going on the desktop. That's where you would use VNC, and you use that for this or for Raspberry Pi or whatever. But getting it set up on this involved a lot of work at the command line, and was still a bit sluggish when I got it going. But it's overall a really powerful way, particularly when you start looking at the very detailed free online courses that NVIDIA has, a very detailed way to get to a very inexpensive, helpful way to learn how to make your own AI projects that you can use around the house or take to other platforms. So you can take this and you can learn how to have it do facial recognition, and then maybe take it to a more expensive platform where it will go even fast, where it will work even faster. Or you could use this, and using the GPIO pins, which power electronics, you could use this to build a robot. You could use this to build a smart speaker or a smart camera. So it also has a camera port on it for connecting to a standard Raspberry Pi camera. And also, of course, you could connect a USB webcam to one of the 3 USB ports here. So overall, this is a very promising product, the Jetson Nano, NVIDIA Jetson Nano 2 gigabytes, coming for $59 later this month. It also has, in one really nice improvement over the prior model, if you get it in the US market, and I believe also in Europe, it comes with a free Wi-Fi dongle, which was something that was really sadly missing from the 4 gigabyte model, where you had to find and get your own compatible Wi-Fi dongle, which not every Wi-Fi dongle was compatible with it, and that was extra money, whereas this comes with one that the drivers and everything are built into the operating system right out of the box.
Well, that's good, because that sounds reminiscent of the days of the old like Roku devices that didn't have Wi-Fi built in. You had to figure out, or the old DirecTV boxes, and you're like, well, is this the one that works? Oh no, this is revision 3. I need revision 2. Oh
yeah, I had quite a unpleasant time with the prior model trying to find a working Wi-Fi dongle, and I was very critical of it for that. When you consider the Raspberry Pi, if you get a $10 Raspberry Pi Zero W that has Wi-Fi built in, I still don't understand why they can't have built a Wi-Fi radio onto the board. But I guess as long as they're giving you the dongle and it works right out of the box, that's good. They said that in some markets, like I think the Asian market, it will not come with a dongle, but it'll sell for $5 less, and you can therefore bring your own dongle. I hope the dongle support has gotten better in the last year since the original model came out, because at that time I was trying a couple different dongles and it didn't work. And what I had to do, not having Ethernet where I was to take an Ethernet to USB cable connector, connect it to my laptop, which has Wi-Fi, and then do connection sharing where it used my laptop's Wi-Fi as its Ethernet, which is something, by the way, you can do with any device that has Ethernet only. If you have Ethernet only and you're in a room without an Ethernet connection, you can take your laptop, your Windows laptop, probably also a Linux laptop or Mac laptop, connect connect an Ethernet to USB, or just any Ethernet, connect an Ethernet to Ethernet on your laptop. If your laptop doesn't have Ethernet, you can use a $5 Ethernet to USB dongle and then run it to here. And then it's very easy in Windows to share your connection. So if you're ever stuck with a device that doesn't have Wi-Fi, that's something you can do.
Yeah, the network bridge, if nothing else, is pretty easy to set up in Windows too. But it's good that it's coming with the hardware. Like you said, it's a shame that it doesn't have it built in. That's so weird. Like you said, a $10 Raspberry Pi's got it built in. Just inexpensive, no-name cameras and stuff have it built in. It's weird that something that's designed for such a specific semi-connected state would not have it built in. That's weird.
Yeah. I mean, especially because you might use it on something like a robot. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ethernet is nice. And did you know Ethernet celebrated? I'm going to put the word in air quotes, celebrated, but somebody celebrated the 40th anniversary of Ethernet last week.
I saw something about that.
Yeah, I got all these pitches about a celebration of Ethernet's 40th anniversary. And I thought, okay, I guess you could think about it that way. I mean, it has been very useful over its lifetime. It's just not something I think about as a modern miracle, maybe because it's kind of the annoying thing that you try to go or get past, right? Like wire having wires, it's like there's still people using a landline phone too. We're going to uh celebrate the invention of the phone. I guess we should. I mean, but it's just the things that you're trying to get past, or celebrate the invention of touch tone or something. Like you try to. It's a technology that's. I mean, Ethernet's going to be around a long time. Let's not. Let's be honest. Ethernet's going to be around a long time because it's still faster than Wi-Fi in a lot of cases. A
Uh-huh.
lot of people who use desktops prefer Ethernet for gaming. And if your desktop is in a room that is near an Ethernet connection, by all rights, you should use it. But, you know, I'll never forget when I saw my first laptop running Wi Fi and I thought, this is magic. I mean, you can get the internet without being plugged into something. Amazing. Let's celebrate that.
Ah, That's that's funny because I remember setting up my first network that was Ethernet and not uh, BNC coax, and thinking, "Oh, this is better."
Well, that's true too. I mean, everything's a little better than the thing before. Also, when you have Ethernet, when you have a network, oh wow, I have network, I can connect these things. Like one of the coolest things
Yeah.
I ever saw um, was when my friend. This is really dating me now. When my friend and I were in college, and I went to visit him at his school, and we went to the computer lab where all of their Windows PCs were networked, and we each had a Doom. We each had Doom on a floppy disk, and we went and installed it so that we could play 4-player Doom. And I
Yep.
was like, oh wow, network computing, that's so awesome.
My I have the exact same story except it's Warcraft 2.
Yeah. So I believe Doom was the first to do it though.
Yeah, I think so
I
too.
my final thing I'll say is, if you want to know all about old video games like Doom, watch the Netflix series High Score, which has a whole episode about that. And actually, all of the 6 episodes of it are good. So,
And I just I just read a thing. God, I wish I'd saved the link because we joke about this in the industry way too frequently for me to have lost the link about uh, porting Doom to every screen that exists.
oh yeah, I mean, the people are running it on Raspberry Pi now.
I I remember I think it was within 72 hours of the MacBook with the touch bar coming out, they had it running across that thing. Obviously, there's no need for that, and it is not playable because you can't see what's happening. But that's not the point. Or running it on an ATM. Oh, running it on the ATM made me happy. Anyway, people are people are crazy. Um, Obviously, you've got this thing. You and you've been working with it. You must be in the process of writing about it.
Yeah, yes. And the process of writing review when I get all the courseware up and running. Also, this week has been very busy, and well, next week will be even busier because I will say this to everybody: it's Prime Day, so this is a good time, as I think I've mentioned on previous shows, where you could pick up find some interesting deals on tech that you might need. Some of it might be major tech that you really need, like a monitor. Some of it might be things that you've just been thinking about upgrading, like new headphones, and some of it might be little impulse purchase things that you could always use a better one or one extra of, like power banks or wrist rests or
Micro
whatever.
SD cards.
But micro SD cards. We will be covering the full gamut of interesting tech deals on Tom's Hardware this week, especially Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Uh, Prime Day officially starts Tuesday, but we'll be putting up some deals starting Monday. Writing about some deals starting Monday. So come check us out.
Well, I know, I know it's a lot of work, and I know it can be exhausting and frustrating. But I can tell you, on behalf of those of us who who enjoy the deals. What you do is very helpful, and you probably don't hear it often enough. But thank you to you and your team for doing it all, because there's
Is
so
there
much. There's
anything?
so much.
Is there anything in particular? Like I always have a strategy. Is there anything in particular, like things that I'm like, yeah, if this I see this thing on sale or this type of thing on sale, I'm gonna get one. Do you have anything on your if I see it on sale, I'm gonna get it list?
Well, definitely micro SD. After what happened at the beginning of the show tonight, I'm gonna buy a half a dozen of those, since I seem to burn them out in a year. Um, I don't necessarily have a whole lot. Last year, all of the Neat mics went on sale, um, for Prime Day, and if they do it again, I'm likely to buy one for Michelle, uh, because she's the only one in the group left that doesn't have that doesn't have one. So I'm likely to purchase one of those for her, because I got one for Danielle already. Um, so the Neat mics are definitely on my agenda. Um, the lights that we've been using in the studio here, since the move, are battery powered. So I've been looking for maybe some non-battery powered ones. We purchased them specifically for using on the cameras at CES, but they're on tripods in here. So if I can find some non-battery powered ones, but once again, it's a lot to do with the studio, as it usually is for me. As we've mentioned, the stand that the TV over here that was originally for you, uh, came from a Prime Day deal, as did several other things in the studio. So it tends to be studio stuff for me.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I have one major item on my list, which is to get a
Mm-hmm.
second new monitor. I got one new monitor, a 4K Lenovo monitor, a couple of weeks ago. I'm waiting to see if it goes. It was on sale. Now it's off sale. I'm waiting to see if it goes on a better sale. If it does, or when it does, or eventually when I get annoyed, I will get a second one because I have to have a matching one. So we will see about that.
Eventually, when I get annoyed.
Well, I mean, I'm already annoyed because I set up. I showed you this before, but here for the audience at home, this is gonna be hard to see on the webcam because it doesn't stretch very far, but I just set up my three monitor setup. So here's here's monitor one, which is a Lenovo ThinkVision S28U10, which is pretty nice. And then over here I've got my old Dell 24-inch and another old Dell 24-inch on top, which is off because I have to get a longer cable to go up there, which I have waiting in my mail. So I have an empty spot here for a fourth monitor, and my goal is to get a second one of the Lenovo monitor, put it on the right, and then have the two old monitors on top.
Yeah,
So
that
that is
that's
my
completely understandable. I, a monitor, like, for example, the one that you just got, um, I it's something that I would definitely consider, because the ones that I've got are from 2011. Now, granted, I've got like 8 of them around here, because there's 2 of them I'm
yeah
looking at right now, and I've got, I think, at least 4 up in the office. But having 4K ones like that definitely would be attractive, especially since it has the VESA mount, and I wouldn't have to use
yeah
the workaround that I'm
yeah
using on the HPs.
yeah, no doubt. And one thing I will say for folks to look forward to is we're getting in and doing some testing of budget 4K monitors, and it is really affordable now to get a 27 or 28-inch 4K monitor.
Mm-hmm.
This Lenovo that I got was 265 when I got it for a 28-inch 4K monitor, with pretty decent color. And at times it's been on sale as low as 220. So that's pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
doesn't have a lot of frills in terms of ports, but it's pretty good for getting some good pixels.
If it gets the job done, that's the important part.
Yeah.
If you don't need the frills, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, Avram, again, thank you for the work you will be doing this week, as well as for showing off that super cool AI board. I was intrigued by the first one. I'm super intrigued by the price of this one. So it will definitely be on my list when it comes out. So as always, thank you for that, and I look forward to what we talk about next. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. You get all of the accessories you need to up your game on your PC, console, or mobile device from Razer. Whether you're looking for a gaming mouse and keyboard like we use here in the studio, a new light for your webcam to make your Twitch stream better, or an entire gaming setup like your Razer Blade 15, you can find it all at Razer by going to f5live.tv/Razer. So obviously, one of the big gaming topics this year has been, especially the second half of the year, has been the battle between Epic and Apple, and more than just that, it's been the kind of the battle of philosophies, right? Of open versus closed in terms of ecosystems. Apple has been notoriously a closed ecosystem. Windows obviously has been a notoriously open ecosystem. Then you've got Google in the middle that has some properties of both, particularly when it comes to their store. Epic sued Apple because Apple pulled Fortnite from the store when Epic allowed Fortnite players to buy in-game currency not through the Apple Store. Apple's policy is that you can only make purchases through the Apple Store, which means that they pay 30% to Apple. That's the very quick, high-level thing. Now, after that, Epic filed suit, and then Apple said that they were canceling Epic's developer license, which meant that not only Fortnite was in trouble, but everything that Epic develops for Apple devices, and not just iOS, was in trouble. Most importantly, Unreal Engine. Now, if you want to talk about how important Unreal Engine is to the development community, GMC just announced that the all-electric Hummer infotainment system is built on Unreal Engine. So, Unreal is used to power not just games, but business applications, AR and VR stuff. Unreal is everywhere. So the idea that all of a sudden anybody developing for an Apple device would not be able to use it anymore. We're talking iOS, Android, what's their thing called? Mac OS, Apple TV, all of that would be without Unreal Engine support. And so everybody who had built on top of it would have been screwed. Obviously, Epic fought that in court as well. They asked for an injunction to block Apple from being able to remove Fortnite from the store, and to block them from preventing Unreal Engine development. A court in the Northern District of California ruled in favor of both companies. Fortnite will remain out of the store because it violates the terms of the store agreement, but Apple cannot be punitive and go after the entire developer account, which is what it was decided was happening, which makes sense to me, especially when you're talking about something as big and ubiquitous as Unreal Engine, right, Abram?
I think that was a real overstep by Apple to try and block it. I mean, and the judge probably did them a favor because the negative publicity from that would be really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have a lot of partners using that, so you really going to stick it to your partners like that
Right.
because you're angry at Epic? That's really not smart on Apple's part. Like, be professional. You don't. Uh, they're violating the terms of service, which I, think they have a good case as to why these terms of service are very unfair and kind of monopolistic behavior.
But that's a
You
different
know,
argument.
but
That's
that's a
its own
different
thing.
argument. That's a different argument than we're gonna also punish you by by making Unreal unusable. So
Mm-hmm.
that's I think this is in Apple's best interest.
Yeah, I think it's in Apple's best interest. I think it's in the best interest of like probably a quarter of iOS developers. And I know that sounds like a lot, but I truly believe that there is a huge percentage of games that are built and apps that are built for iOS and Unreal, and for users, because yes, there's Unity, yes, there's Game Maker, but none of them are Unreal Engine. I'm sorry, they're they're just not. Unity is not Unreal Engine. It's unfair. Um, so I think even users would have been harmed pretty significantly on it. So I think it was the right decision. There was no way that summary judgment was going to be given in favor of Epic Games on the Fortnite topic, and I understand that they that they wanted to give it a try, but there was a 0% chance that there was going to be a summary judgment on that topic. But I think the judge made the right decision in both cases to put a permanent injunction against Apple going after Epic on the Unreal side, and a temporary injunction allowing them to continue keeping Fortnite out. On the other side of things, this week Microsoft put out a blog post that included what they were calling their app fairness policy, which is mostly a reiteration and a commitment to the way things have always been on Windows. But what they're doing is they're staking their claim. They're putting their name on a side of the fight, which I think in this case is important. And ironically, it puts Microsoft and Linux on the same side of a fight, and Apple and Google on the other side, which is not usually the way this stuff goes. Google and Linux tend to be on one side, and Apple and Microsoft on the other. But this is not going that way with Microsoft reminding people that that they will never prevent a publisher from putting an app or a game on Windows because of their payment system. They will never lock Windows to a single deployment scheme. Yes, there was Windows 10s, but that's more of a security restriction than it is anything else. They will never prevent third-party stores like Steam and the Epic Games Store. And they also promised to revisit these policies, these core principles, on a regular basis to ensure that they fall in line with current legal requirements and, of course, developer feedback. Nothing in it was new. All of it was what we know about Microsoft and the Windows and Xbox ecosystems, but particularly the Windows ecosystem. And they were just trying to put out their support for a side of this battle, because we talked at the top of the show about Oracle and Google. That's going to have lasting repercussions, and so is this, because this is like a cultural fight more than the Oracle and Google one is. This is a battle of philosophy, and everybody's taking sides, and it's going to be a big case. And just like Oracle and Google, I suspect that Apple and Epic will make it eventually to the Supreme Court for there to be precedent set unless legislation goes in place before it gets up that high. But this is just the beginning for those two, and we're going to see more companies take sides on this. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies, or let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities. It's like watching a movie with your funniest friends. And you can find out about all of the full-length features, the short films, TV episodes, and live events by going to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. One of the things that we have a history of talking about on the show is features of systems going in with a high potential for abuse. And one of those was announced this week. We're going to avoid the political side of this topic and talk entirely in terms of the ability to abuse this new feature. So Yelp announced a new feature that's coming in the very near future that will put up an alert on a business listing when that listing's reviews have had an uptick in commentary about racist behavior, speech, or imagery, or iconography. So, anybody who regularly uses Yelp knows that user reviews have to be taken with a grain of salt. And we've talked about this not just in Yelp. Anything that has user reviews has to be taken with a grain of salt because, as I say all the time, anything that has rules is a game, and any game is going to have professional players. In the case of Yelp, the professional players are either organized social media attacks based on any number of things. We've seen it happen a lot on both Yelp and Facebook reviews. It can be through an organization, or it can be through a company. There are companies that you can pay to have either positive or negative reviews posted to a listing. The accounts look legit because they post more than one review, but they are paid for. Yelp does an okay job of policing. They'll pause new reviews on a listing that has a sudden major influx, things like that. But what they have generally avoided has been essentially Yelp certifying information. And that's kind of what we're looking at here. By Yelp putting up essentially a Yelp branded alert, people will take that at a higher value than user reviews, which most people know are not to be trusted. But if you're one of these social media attacks, organizations, or companies that's putting fake reviews out, if I were one of them, this would be my new go-to. If I was trying to harm a business, this would be my new way to do it. So I understand what they're going for. Tech companies, except for Coinbase, have been trying to show how down with the struggle they are. But this has a huge potential for abuse to me.
So here's what I don't totally understand about how this is going to be used.
Mm-hmm.
So is this to flag that the establishment has racist stuff going on, or is this to flag that the commenters are using racist language?
The location, the business.
So, in other words, if I come on and I say I went to this restaurant and the waiter was a racist, did this racist thing or said a racist thing or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, that's what they're trying to flag.
Yes,
They're
or that the
trying to
owners have,
flag.
or that the owners have things up uh, in the restaurant or outside, that there's iconography or anything like that. Mm-hmm.
That's a really, yeah, that's that's really tough. I mean, I think I get why they think that they should call this out, but I think they're better off. I mean, readers were calling it out. I mean, if it's really happening, right? If there really is racist speech happening, or people are made to feel uncomfortable going to a business, then they should be talking. I think they should be talking about it on Yelp.
Sure.
I think, I mean, that's what it's there for, is to point out, you know, yes, businesses hate getting negative reviews, but if everything is wonderful, then nothing is wonderful. And so you have to
Sure.
point out when something is, when you've had a bad experience. I think it's actually great that people do legitimately call attention to this stuff. Now, obviously, there's a problem because, as you said, anyone can defame any business using Yelp. Um, but at the same time, if I'm going to use a business, I I really want to know, if I really do want to know if that's a reliable business. And
Sure.
I have used, if not always Yelp, other user reviews to help me make decisions, and I don't, I don't regret it.
Sure.
Like,
Absolutely.
ob- obviously I look and I see, I look for a lot of information, right? A lot of sources of information, and you've got to be a good consumer
Sure.
of those user reviews. But I think that they're very I think that there's look, I mean, now maybe I'm pulling back a little bit from just the, is it, are they, racist? But um like when you look at, um a couple of weeks ago, uh I was pitched to buy a, um I won't get too into this, pitched to buy like a, like to rent like a CPAP machine to help me sleep better, right?
Okay.
And the doctor said, "Oh, we want you to, we want you to use this business that's going to call you, that we like to work with, and they'll rent it to you." And I went and I Googled this, and I saw reviews on Google, and I saw a lot of things. And this business that they wanted me to rent from has an F from the Better Business Bureau, and is
Oof.
loaded with user reviews saying this company took our money and didn't provide the product, or this company doesn't answer the phone, or they put me into collection for something I never got, like just really, really horrible stuff. And when I saw those type of comments, and I saw them in multiple places, I
Right.
also saw they got an F rating from the Better Business Bureau. I was like, yeah, this sounds very believable to me.
Yeah.
I refuse to, I'm not going to start a relationship with this business where I have to pay them every month for something. I'm going to go elsewhere because I don't trust
Absolutely.
this.
Absolutely.
So,
And that
yeah,
and so
yeah,
in that particular case, the F from the Better Business Bureau is the thing that connects with me on this topic the most. You know, the Better Business Bureau is putting their reputation on the line by saying this is a problem, right? They have policies in place, they have research that they do, they make calls, they do, they an F from the Better Business Bureau is not just, hey, a couple people said, or 100 people said this is the case. We've done our research. And so that stamp, that is the thing that I think people are going to think this is, which isn't going to be the case, because it's not like Yelp is going to go out of their way. They don't have lawyers and compliance officers that are going to verify all this information. They're going to go look for a news article or something from what they consider a reputable source. But here in St. Pete, I think it was 2 weekends ago, we had this thing happen. I think it was on Central Avenue. A group went up and down Central Avenue, accosting restaurant customers, and they accused the restaurants and the patrons of being racist. They threw stuff. They flipped chairs. They flipped tables. It was a huge disaster. And so obviously there was news coverage of it. And the news coverage essentially says, group claims restaurant is racist. And then you have, so there's your third party confirmation, which is all that Yelp is looking for here. That's not good enough to me. That is simply not good enough to put your reputation on the line. And on top of it, what does racist mean? Well, the definition doesn't apply to almost anything that is going to fall under this, because the definition is the belief that one race is better than another, or the behaviors that support that belief. And that's from Merriam-Webster. But we know that it means something different to everybody. We hear the term racist thrown around quite a lot lately. And so to one group of people, and I'm not taking a side on this, I'm just, this is a common fight, the Confederate flag. To some people, doesn't represent anything racial, and to some people it does. So where is Yelp going to fall on this? And it's going to come down to the reviewer. What does that reviewer consider? There's all.
I mean, I think that's a circumstance.
Yelp hasn't published a definition, which is a problem. If they publish a definition, at least we know what they're working under. Right now, they're going to work under the same rules that Google is, which is whatever we think, go away. It's what we've seen on YouTube, where the policies, we've talked about it a lot, where the policies change reviewer to reviewer. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think this is a disaster waiting to happen. This is going to be the first restaurant that goes out of business because of false accusations put up with a seal of approval from Yelp is going to cause a massive lawsuit, and Yelp is going to lose its reputation. That's my thinking.
Yelp is going to lose its reputation. Like they already have a reputation for fact checking their reviews.
There's definitely that.
Right. I do, like I said, I think Yelp reviews have a valid place. I think people need to look at them, and they need to look at multiple sources. They need to see what the preponderance of it, and then they need to see what the subtlety of what the reviews are saying. Right?
Yeah, a 1-star review because the server didn't bring enough forks, or
well, yeah. I mean,
we've
obviously
all seen reviews like that.
Whether I'm going to a restaurant or buying, a $5 item on Amazon, I look through to see the different things that people have said, and sometimes, I look for the things that seem to ring true or seem credible. Now, I
always read the most recent 5 stars and the most recent 1 stars.
Yes, right. I mean, it's good to see, what are people giving it negative for. So as far as deciding, Yelp deciding what it is and is not racist, that's a really tough road to hoe. But I think for sure, if I were thinking about going to a restaurant, and and they had what I would consider to be racist symbols up, then that would make me not want to go to the restaurant. Now, obviously, the term racist is a loaded term, right? So nobody wants to be called a racist It's a nobody wants to be called a racist, and that's why even people whose behavior many of us would argue is racist
Mm-hmm.
will say that they have no racist bone in their body, or nobody calls me a racist or whatever.
Sure.
That so I get that it's a loaded term, and that's why I agree with you that Yelp going out and sort of putting, I don't know how they're going to present this. Is it going to be like an icon, like,
It is a
on there that like,
it is a warning with text at the top of the listing. I didn't include the screenshot in the article, but maybe I'll go back and add that.
can I see this now? Like, are there places that have listings that have it now?
No, but they shared what the thing was going to look like. It might be in the link to the blog post, which is in the article. Let me pull it up. I saw it in a yeah. So at plughitslive.com/the upstream, we have an article about this, or in the show notes for this article or for this episode, there's a link to the blog post announcing this, and you can see a screenshot of the web version of the notification, which comes up, and you have to dismiss it before you can see the full listing on the web. They haven't talked about exactly what it'll look like on mobile, but it's a pop-up that you have to dismiss on the web.
Wait a second. You I think there's one thing that you didn't mention, which is interesting here. Looking at Yelp's post, it says will default to a general public attention alert to inform consumers if someone associated with the business was accused of or the target of racist behavior. So there will alert you
Oh,
if the business was a target of racist behavior.
well, that's weird.
So, I mean, if I'm running a business and and there are people coming in and targeting my employees, or I'm the owner and they're targeting me with hate speech, um, I don't know what the goal of having that on Yelp is. Is that so that people will try and support me because we'll try and support the business to help fight the racism? Because I don't know if like that's not going to warn me away from the business if the business has been, or at least it's very unfair. Say, oh, this the people who run the business were harassed.
Wow.
But now that, of course, is different from the business accused of racist behavior alert when
Yeah.
there's resounding evidence of egregious racist actions from business owner or employee.
Yeah. Their definition of resounding evidence uh, is not great. Um, uh, and that's the problem. This is all too hypothetical. If you're going to announce something that you know is going to be a problem, because there's no way that they didn't run this past the legal team. The legal team didn't say these are the possible issues, so they know that there's going to be issues with this. For them to not talk about two important things: one, what is the threshold? What are the triggers on which this is going to happen? And two, if my business has been accused of being racist, how do I deal with this on Yelp? Because my guess is that there's going to be more. There's, I don't know what the percentage is going to be. I'm not going to say. I'm going to say that there's going to be a lot of invalid stuff on here, and there's going to be businesses that are harmed without enough evidence or without any evidence, because this is such a topic right now. You know what I mean? And you can watch videos online of people losing it, claiming people are a business is racist because they won't take back I saw a video. Somebody purchased something from a Walmart 13 years ago, and they were trying to return it, and they called everybody in the store that worked for the store racist because they wouldn't return the thing because the guy was Hispanic or something. Yeah, this is going to be a problem for sure. I see this being a problem. I don't see any scenario in which it's not. I understand what they're trying to do. As a consumer, I can certainly appreciate the theoretical scenario around it, but I don't think the reality is what they think it is. That's my problem with it.
I mean, it's so complicated, and this is such a complex and nuanced subject that I think it is hard to legitimately to do what they're doing at the scale at which they would need to do it for all the millions of businesses that are covered by Yelp,
and
to make it,
and that's my concern,
and to make it fair. On the other hand, I certainly hope that consumers will post about racist behavior that they experience at these stores or at these whatever establishments.
Sure.
And if I'm reading Yelp and I see that and it looks credible to me, then I wouldn't patronize that business. Yeah. So I think that it's right for people to put up those, for individuals to blow the whistle on that.
Sure.
But Yelp labeling it as the kind of proprietor of the service probably has to be held to a higher standard of evidence.
Yeah, and that's my thing. And they just don't have the resources. They don't have the resources or the expertise on dealing with that. And that's where my concern comes in. That people are going to know that this is going to be overwhelming for Yelp, and they're going to take advantage of that overwhelming nature. I'm not saying it's a bad feature conceptually. I'm not saying that people shouldn't post about their experiences. It's literally what Yelp is all about. But I think Yelp getting into the business of certifying the truth or not of the information is a scary place for them to get.
Yeah, well, I think in general, them getting in the business of certifying the truth of any of the things on there. Now, sure. I think that's what people would love to see.
Other than certain verifiable things. Does this place have outdoor seating? Does it have
right? But I mean,
crowdsourced even information like are there TVs in a sports bar, or can I do takeout or delivery? I get that. I get that. This is a little different.
Yeah, I mean, I would, on the other hand, love to see Yelp do more to bring factual information into Yelp that was easily provable. For example, I don't think that Yelp has health ratings for restaurants on their pages, whereas that's publicly accessible information.
It's interesting. I actually thought that it was on there.
Oh, it is. I don't know if they have that for all.
I would say it may not be for everything. It might depend on the
locality.
Yeah.
Or for example, if there have been lawsuits against the place, or I mean, there's things that are in the public record,
sure, that
could be brought in, and of course you could dispute, or somebody could sue you and it's not fair or whatever, but that takes a lot more effort to actually sue someone for doing something wrong than or the Better Business Bureau, where they have serious investigation, like maybe the Better Business Bureau, if the Better Business Bureau and Yelp were somehow brought together on one page.
Yeah. Something like that would make sense. Yeah, I definitely agree that Yelp has both the power and the reach to be able to bring that kind of information together. I think it's a good idea, but that's externally verifiable information, like you said. Very hard to. Yeah, we've
verify that
we've talked about platforms versus publishers and what what happens when you start trying to be the arbiter of truth. You lose business, you lose reputation. It just seems like a bad idea to me, and something that's going to end with them in a lawsuit. But I guess time will tell. This week's DRM Not Included in F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. This week is Prime Day. Day is whatever. But on top of Prime Day and free shipping, you also get Amazon Prime Music, which is free music. You get free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video. You get free games and a free subscription with Amazon Prime Gaming, and a whole lot more. To learn more and get quick links to all of these features, plus, if you're not already a subscriber and you want a 30-day free trial, we've got a link for that as well. This week would be a good time to do that in time for Prime Day. And you can even give it as a gift to a friend or family member who's not a subscriber. And all of that can be found at f5live.tv/prime. Okay, so 5 years ago, AT&T bought DirecTV. It was a weird move. We talked at the time about the popularity of content deliverers getting into the content space as well. You know, Verizon was purchasing what I still refer to as the nostalgia unit, which was Yahoo and AOL and things like that. AT&T had purchased DirecTV for a ridiculous amount of money, 67 point something billion dollars. And considering DirecTV had been struggling for a number of years, that seemed like a lot of money. Since AT&T purchased it, things have gotten considerably worse. They have seen so many people leave the service that somebody in the upper levels of the company thought that lying about their subscriber growth would be a good idea. There have been lawsuits and investigations by investors and the federal government. And the inevitable decision, of course, after some layoffs and things like that, was that the brand would be sold. There was no way that this was not the end result of this downward spiral. And so this week, we found out that in the first round of bidding for DirecTV, the number is somewhere in the 16 billion range, down from 67. And AT&T is not backing away. They're like, you know what? This has got to go. They are hoping for a second round of bids, but if 16 is what it is, 16 is what it is. This reminds me a lot of News Corp buying and then selling MySpace. 580 million and then 35 million. Just an absolute disaster of a purchase.
Who would want it?
Even Dish Network doesn't want it. The only company who could possibly want DirecTV, Dish Network, only because of the satellites. And even Dish is like, nah, we'll hold off. I think Dish is hoping that whoever buys it now, which will probably be an investment firm, will do their own fire sale at some point in the future, and Dish will buy the assets, Circuit City style. But I mean, even Dish Network's like, nah, we're good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they'd be lucky to get their 16 billion then. I mean, I don't know. Is there a great future in satellite TV?
I don't think so. I honestly, you know, the amount of homes that are covered today versus 15 years ago when I sold these two services, you know, that it's a different landscape today. It's not as expensive to wire. There are alternate options. So many alternate options. The price of YouTube TV, for example, or Hulu with live TV, compared to DirecTV or Dish Network, and especially here in Florida, the likelihood that when you do want to use it, it will not work because it's raining or cloudy. It's just not a good investment today for a consumer, let alone for an owner.
So somebody can repurpose these
seems like a lot. Unless somebody can repurpose these satellites for something valuable, I don't know. It's expensive to put a satellite in space, so if you can purchase ones that are already up there, maybe. But I mean, my goodness, it's crazy to me. And I definitely don't think that a pair of companies fighting over the 8 customers that are subscribed is worth it. So my guess is, in the end, DirecTV vanishes. Somebody repurposes satellites that are in space. Dish Network goes forward for as long as the concept is viable. And we already know that even Dish Network is trying to pivot away from the idea, because they bought all of Sprint's prepaid cell brands. They bought the Sprint prepay, Virgin Mobile. They own Boost Mobile. They as part of the T-Mobile deal. So even Dish Network's trying to pivot away from it. It's their only business.
Yeah, this seems like a loser to me. I mean, I think they're probably lucky to get 16 billion if they do. There's not a lot of future in this with all the cord cutting that's going on. Yeah. People wanting high-speed internet, and then 5G. Isn't 5G going to make this even less useful, because people are going to do cord cutting? Those who are not serviced well by fiber optic or cable will be able to get in-home 5G soon enough.
Yeah.
So what is this? What is the point of this?
Exactly. Yeah. I was shocked when AT&T purchased it in the first place. I was even more shocked when they put the Globe in front of the DirecTV name, because that's going to be a weird transition as it leaves AT&T's ownership having the Globe on devices out in the wild. But it was a bad purchase in the first place. But that's not the only trouble that AT&T's having in their entertainment division. The other side of things is the actual content production. Warner Media, in August, they laid off a couple of hundred people, and now it looks like several thousand are about to be laid off out of the Warner Media division. Now, granted, some of this has to do with redundancies, because the company has purchased additional brands and things that are going to have duplicate positions, but they've tried to put that off as much as possible. Obviously, the lockdown and the inability for them to produce new content has had an effect on the business, as it has on most businesses. But entertainment has taken a pretty hard hit in this. The company had almost 30,000 employees at the beginning of the year. The company refuses to say how many employees will be let go in this round, but the fact that they're saying that means that it's not a small number. It sucks, but I mean, this was the inevitable outcome of both all of these mergers into what is now Warner Media. But shutting down services. There used to be 35 different streaming services, all with the HBO name. Yes, that's hyperbole. And now they're trying to streamline everything down to one. So there's all kinds of redundancies in there. But the studios being closed, the marketing divisions, everybody's been closed. Revenue's down huge. This was inevitable, I think, especially at Warner Media. We've seen it at Disney already. but this was inevitable at Warner Media, especially with all the other strife, like DirecTV, right? It just seems like this had to happen at some point. Well, we will keep an eye on the DirecTV sale for you, because that's one of the weirder stories out of AT&T. I cannot wait to see what that final number is, because that is truly bonkers. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We always appreciate it. If you didn't and would like to in the future, Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. We always appreciate that. If you would like to subscribe, plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, F5 Live, Pilch Point, Plug Hits Live Presents, How To, Unboxed, and a whole lot more. This week, actually tomorrow, we have a number of how-to videos going up, so definitely check that out. And I guess, other than a reminder to stay tuned to Tom's Hardware this week for the all of the deal stuff that Avram and his team will be putting together. On behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you back next week. Ciao.